Hi there, and welcome to the Fed Talks. My name is Nathan Hall, and today we're joined by Andy Law of DMG Media, who are the publisher of the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday. Andy, welcome to the Fed Talks. How are you doing?
I'm all good, thanks, Nathan. How are you?
Fantastic, very well. So Andy, the Mail have recently launched a new subscriptions card as an alternative to the traditional voucher book that we're familiar with. So could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, of course. It's been a bit of a labour of love. We've had multiple changes to our subscription platform over the years by introducing in home news delivery as well as having the traditional voucher books. But we've listened to sort of reader feedback and also some retailer feedback about our subscription team. And as a result, we've introduced this additional option, which is a subscription card, and it runs alongside voucher books and home news delivery. So basically, the subscriber gets a choice now on the collect in store option as to whether or not they want to opt for a voucher book or a card. And the benefits of the card is it's a faster processing time for retailers. Obviously, it's digital, so there has benefits from a DMG perspective. Obviously, they're cheaper to produce and run on the longer term. And also, we've introduced a digital card that sits on your phone as well. So it means that your subscription can start a lot quicker than the traditional voucher books rather than having to wait. And it's powered by a service called iMovo, which has been around for about 20 years. So it operates through the PayZone, PayPoint, and ePay terminals, but also PaperRound. So retailers should be used to it and should know about it, hopefully. So we feel like it's a good place and a good way to progress forward with subscriptions.
Certainly sounds amazing. Why do you think now's the right time for that?
There's a few reasons. Obviously, the world's changed significantly since the little pandemic that seems like a distant memory ago now. And I think that drove a lot of subscribers during that period. But also, people are more used to using cards and contactless to pay for things rather than carrying physical money around. And that seems to be the same with paper vouchers. So, as I've already mentioned, paper vouchers are also expensive to produce, especially with the increasing postal costs as well. And we try at DMG to keep the subscription prices as keen as possible. So we need to look at how we can shave cost off in order to pass that on to our subscribers. So, and I think the other issue with it is there's always been issues with paper vouchers. Getting lost in the post, for example, the amount of time it takes retailers to process them. It's a very labor intensive job, but also the speed in which they get paid from the wholesaler. And then and also in addition to it, there's a new bill that's coming into place at some point in 2025, which changes the legislation for subscriptions, which means that they need to be cancelable a lot easier than they currently are. So it gives us the opportunity to modernise the way we work currently, but also get ready for the new legislation. So yeah, it seems like the right time.
Got you. And on the topic of processing, for the benefit of our retailers, so how are these new cards processed at retail?
Yes, the $1 million question. What we've tried to do, Nathan, is send out a lot of comms recently via the trade. So giving instructions on how to process these cards. So hopefully a lot of your members will have already seen those trade letters land. But ultimately, they're processed through the EPOS systems or the payment terminal that the retailer may carry. And then a message or receipt confirms the transaction successful. The process it differs based on whichever system you're using, but it is pretty straightforward. And the letters that people can receive can be processed in the same way. And that's for people that have home news delivery, and they use the ePay, PayPoint, PayZone terminals, and also, as I said already, through PaperRound. But then the settlement's automatic, and it shows as a credit on the statement. So there's no waiting around for wholesale to pay the bills or disputes with it. Once you've processed it, it appears as a credit, or it drops into your bank account if you use it through PaperRound. So, as we progress with these and more go in, hopefully it becomes a more seamless transaction for retailers and a lot speedier way for them to get their money back.
No, exactly, Andy. And you mentioned PayPoint, PayZone PayPoint, paper around ePay there. So you've
Yeah.
touched into almost every retailer. But what if I'm a retailer that doesn't have any of those systems?
Again, another good question. There is a way you can do it. It was unknown to me up until when we started integrating with iMovo. But PayPround slash iMovo, they have an app which is called the iMovo Express, and it works on any smartphone or tablet. And it's free to register for newsagents, and newsagents get paid every 7 days direct into their registered bank. So you have to go for a registration process. You have to put your bank details into it, but then you can process the casual iMovo sale via the app, and there's no deductions or charges for that. So obviously that differs to the terminals. And the iMovo is owned by PayPoint, so I think it's fair to say that PayPoint could have been well within their rights to have cancelled this app, but they've kept it going and kept it as an independent function. So it's available to all, because I think the key bit for us and iMovo is to grow the network as wide as we possibly can. And I think the other bit is the Express app's currently be updated, and it's being modernized, because when it was put into place, there was only a handful of publishers utilizing the service. But the new version is meant to be simpler and easier to work with, and it's also future-proof. So any software updates to the mobile phones, iOS or Android, it's future-proof, and it can also run, I say independently, but also on ePay and Payzone as well. So, I would urge any retailer that hasn't already got it to download it if they don't have one of the terminals, because it allows them to accept the card. But the new release, we're looking at sort of late May, early June for that to be released. So hopefully, the members watching this and the members out there who don't operate with those terminals can get on board with it and accept the cards, and have a way of being able to process them.
Got you, perfect, Andy. And then just to finish off there, so why are you offering them as an alternative, as the cards can't be redeemed in all shops?
Well, again, I think we've touched on it earlier on. There's new legislation that's coming into place, which, although isn't the main driver to the reason why we're doing this, it's a contributing factor, because like all publishers, we need to make sure that we're legally compliant. But for the other reasons we've said, we've also had feedback about modernising the voucher process, and I think there's been a call from it from certainly some of the Fed members have been quite vocal about it in recent years. I think the key bit is we don't plan to switch vouchers off in the short term. It's not right, this is it, it's over, it's all onto the card. But with the new regulations coming into effect, and that's going to apply to all subscription services, the card becomes a really good viable option to us. We will gradually move across to the card, which will enable us to have a more modern and controllable subscriptions redemption mechanic. But we want to work with the Fed and iMovo to ensure that the cards and HND letters can be redeemed at as many stores as possible. It's going to take time. These things always do. I think you look at vouchers and how easy they are to rip out a book, process. The ultimate aim is we want to get the cards to the same place where they're that easy to work with. But it's going to be a necessary step, and it's going to be some teething problems in the initial stages, but we need to make these changes because of the legislative changes and modernising subscriptions. So I think it's worth also noting that iMovo services are predominantly available across independent retailers. That's where most of the transactions are processed. So we're hopefully enabling and driving subscribers into your members and other independent retailers with this. But I think because of the legislative changes, there are some big multiples that are also now looking at integrating iMovo into their systems as well. So hopefully that will give more traction and more focus to it as well, and more customers will take it on board and help grow the network.
Fantastic, Andy. Well, thank you. Just to an end, so thank you very much for coming on and sharing that with us. And to all of the retailers that have tuned in, thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Always a pleasure.